Hi, I am Ramraj. Welcome to Turf Talk on TTmirror.tv. Chennai has become the squash hub of India thanks to the Squash Federation of India's facility at Chetpat. We now have with us a very veteran sports journalist, Mr. Suryanarayan, who has been associated for squash almost two decades now. Mr. Suryanarayan, welcome to Turf Talk on TTmirror.tv. Sir, now can you tell us how squash has become the hub of Chennai in India, and how we have players like Deepika Palikal, Jyotsna Chinnappa, Saurav Ghoshal, and what does future behold for squash in India?
Yeah, squash actually many people used to see it as a club sport, and in Tamil Nadu, basically in Chennai, some of the clubs used to have the courts, and it never used to be open to the public or to any new talents and all that. That was when Mr. Ramachandran took a lot of interest in the association here. The association was formed, Tamil Nadu Squash Racket Association. And then he said, the first thing I should do is, we must have an academy, proper place to train, allow these kids to work on their skills, and then we should go about in a proper way. That's how the vision started, and then 2000 the academy came into being. He had an understanding, the Squash Racket Federation, Tamil Nadu Squash Racket and the SDAT. They've got a piece of land in the Nehru Stadium, the Nehru Park area. And they started with 4 courts initially, and then the main structure came later on. And then the business started. So when the academy was formed, he said we should also have the best people to run it. So he got an expert from Malaysia, Major Maniam we call him, because he used to be in the army before. Yeah. And he was one of the renowned coaches in the world. He had done so much for Malaysian sport, in fact even discovered Nicol David, who is a legend now. Yeah. So he agreed to come here. He has got a little Tamil background. I believe he's from Tanjavur, his roots are from Tanjavur. But he said he didn't have the time to go there because he was so much involved in squash. So he laid out a certain plan, a scheme, and then to help him was the national coach Cyrus Poncha, who was brought from Bombay. He was based in Bombay, he's never gone anywhere else. He thought a lot, and then they said, okay, let me see, there's a future of squash in India, so I must also be part of it. So he came over to Chennai and decided to move over, and then started the whole dream. First was to get into the Asia, make a name, and then slowly get the players to start making splashes here and there. So from 1996, when squash entered the Asian Games schedule, we've been winning medals so far. We have won 8 medals so far, and last games in Incheon was the best because we won a gold medal also. So this is the most happening sport in India today because it is going to get you a medal. That is the underlining part of it, because that has to be stressed, because this is one sport which is not there basically for any luxury or anything. It is giving you, it's a competitive sport, and it's getting a lot of talents, a lot of interest, and a lot of awareness now, and the base is growing, and that's it. So squash has developed into a medal-winning sport.
But why is this specifically confined to Chennai? Any reason the Squash Federation of India planning to sort of diversify, grow into other cities, or how is it possible for you to get the talent from, like even the players who are present now, some of them are from other states, but they still come and play here and train here.
Correct.
So is it any move to sort of expand it and take it out and make the base bigger?
Yeah, they have a long-term plan, because squash in India is basically in Bombay. Bombay is one area, Maharashtra, where at least Bombay is the main place. Calcutta is there, a little bit of in Rajasthan, Ajmer, and even Madhya Pradesh, and Delhi also. And thanks to the Commonwealth Games, we had a facility coming up in Delhi also, and lovely courts have come up there now. Bombay, of course, the CCI is there, then they have the various clubs there. Academy part of it, they said, okay, we will begin it. We will begin sometime. At the moment, what is happening is the national coach is in coordination with all the main coaches here and there, and keeps them telling them how to go about. So there is some sort of a unity and the similarity in the way of coaching in every places. Private sector is slowly moving in. Basically, that is what's happening in India, in most sports. So once they move in and they decide to invest money for all this happening sport, where there is a result, they come in. So I think that is the reason why there is a slight thing. But I think in the long run, there is going to be academies not only in Delhi and Bombay, maybe in smaller cities where talents have started coming up.
So yes, you rightly said unity in coaching. See, this is something like for example, unfortunately, we have to give the example of cricket where we seem to have a structure
Yeah.
where cricket at schools, clubs, and then we have the state level Ranji Trophy and then coming to
Yeah.
international matches.
Yeah.
Similarly, in squash, are you planning to have some kind of a structure where you can tap the talent from the grassroots and sort of grow them into medal winning prospects?
Yeah, that's what. If a good sport, see, most places the stress is on the juniors. There are a lot of junior tournaments in India now, and Maharashtra, in fact, is going ahead to start a league also. In fact, they wanted to start a national league on the lines of IPL. IPL has become the model for every sport, and squash also thought about it, but then wisely they said it's still not become a fully spread out sport yet. We'll start on a small scale, but the enthusiasm in Maharashtra is so much. They wanted to start a small state sort of league there. But maybe this month, I think they have a plan in the junior level. And just like the IPL, they went about and doing an auction, not with money, but on the basis of ranking. They said, okay, this girl is number 1 ranked. The highest ranking girl will get 130 points. That is just in points. So if somebody can bid, it can be 130, 330, whatever it is. Each franchise is given 1,000 units. They are supposed to buy the player or based on the units, no money involved.
Okay.
And it was very enthusiastic, and I was told that no, these squash people they have a video squash TV,
Okay.
and this was the most watched, most enjoyed TV session, I believe. And this is a good sign, because once this is good, once this develops, that is going to be a model for other states to follow. There are junior tournaments, but if you have a national league or a state league, there is more competition. It's going to be team competitions and all that. That is good. Any competition is good for for a player to develop. And I can tell you, at the moment, that's a pretty good crop of juniors in squash in India.
See, among racket sports, we have badminton and tennis much popular and table tennis. But squash is sort of a kind of an unknown entity.
Yeah.
Can you throw some light in terms of how is it going to be? Like we think of golf, we say it's a rich man's sport. When you think of tennis, they say it's a costly sport. So, well, cricket has become a common man's sport.
Yeah.
So, similarly, can you throw some light on squash and what is needed and how players can play and how the whole game goes about, sir?
No, squash used to be, I still remember people telling what is the greatness about seeing a ball being hit on a wall, and then, where is the interest in it? But there is a skill in even hitting the ball at the right spot. If you hit it at the right spot, the kind of the bounce, how to get, you have to be supremely athletic to get to the ball, and also you have to have tremendous mind of a chess player, because you have only split second to decide which stroke you will play, and the strokes are different direction, different velocity, and different height. All those things have trajectory. All those things have to be decided quickly. A good player always finds it easy to stroke it. Another thing is now, because they have to make this sport more TV friendly, because that's how people understand. They have reduced the number of points. They've also made it rally points. They've also brought in, they've tried this color, this thing in different schemes and all that. And I believe at the moment when all this replay and all that is coming into play, it's becoming more interesting. Also, they have a system of stroke and let and all that in squash, which many people didn't understand. Now you have 3 referees, 3 people sitting along with the referee, and then they will decide if a particular ball, if the degree of difficulty for a player to take was difficult, or whether that's a stroke or whether it's a let. The player appeals, stroke.
Yeah.
In case they say that, no, that ball I could not have taken. How can you call it how can you give the point to the other person? So then the referee says, the other 3 will ask. So each will say, they'll hold out a play card and say yes, stroke, or no stroke, like that. So it's more like a boxing thing where everybody gives a point, and then it becomes a more democratically done way of going about. So that is making it interesting, and squash, I believe, is picking up in terms of TV viewing.
But in terms of popularity, how to make it more popular among the masses, so what needs to be done? Like even as sports journalists, when we started covering squash, we definitely had to go to the coaches, players to get an insight.
Yeah,
and as you said,
you're right in that. So that is why, squash is the only sport, I think, wherein you can just take the court and play it wherever you want. You can have it at the beach side, you can have it at in a marketplace. They had it in the US in a traffic square, in a particular traffic spot. They take the portable court there, and in a matter of a few hours, the court is ready. You can play the match there. Nobody's going to trouble you, and it's not going to disturb anybody. Everybody will view it to them. That is why we started in Chennai. What they did, the Express Avenue Mall became a very popular point, where we had the world doubles also. We had the World Under-23 Championship. We had the recently we also had some major tournaments there. So seeing the crowd there, seeing the kind of interest people are showing there, it was a tremendous success. In fact, we had the Asian Championship there, where Joshna Chinnappa for the first time, first Indian to win a Asian Championship. It happened there.
At Express Avenue.
Express Avenue.
Okay, so and now World Squash Federation is also trying to make this into bring it into the Olympic Games, and there has been a movement, and every time players have been trying, supporting. We have international, lot of noise being made on it.
Yeah.
So, what is the status, and going forward, do you look at squash becoming a medal? I mean, an Olympic sport?
Yeah, see, the whole thing started with Mr. Ramachandran again. When he was the WSF president, he in fact stood down, or he's finished his term last October. He had 2 terms, so he had a very successful year. And his main outlook during his term was to make this sport a number 1, or popular as possible, and then get this sport into the Olympics. He did his best. He brought the sport to the doorsteps of Olympics. In fact, everybody thought by 2020 this will be there. It was the last stage where the whole thing was at the hands of the local organizing committee. In Japan, baseball is much more popular than in this. So finally, that is where the equations went away. Otherwise, everything was in favor of squash. So to that extent, he has shown the way. He and his team. In fact, he was telling if there is one regret that he had as a WSF president was not able to get sport into the Olympics. But he is happy that he brought it right there at the threshold. And I feel by this year, and that's what I'm based on. Jacques Fontaine is the current president, and he and his team, they're confident that by this year they will be able to virtually get a nod for 2024. When they decide on 2024, squash should be there. And I see no reason why it should not be there, because like any other competitive sport, this has got its thrills, this has got its, and it needs a minimum space for you to conduct it, and it's become a TV friendly sport, and it's a competition of excellence, of real talent. Not anybody can go and kind of play the way some of the Egyptians are doing now. Egyptians are the number 1 place in the world today, but people should understand that. People, once they see, they enjoy it, they'll learn it.
In terms of global popularity as compared to football or soccer and tennis, where I think it's more of a very global game, a lot of people play. So cricket is popular in India, but not a global sport. I would call it a global sport. But how is squash so popular? Like players we see mostly Egypt, Malaysia, now India. So there seems to be a few pockets, some countries where it's very popular. But on a global scale, how is the game growing, and what is the popularity? Sir?
Yeah, it's actually, you won't believe, this has got more than 100 countries in the WSF. Yeah, 100 countries are playing, and all the continents, they have representations. The only thing is, it's not like, it's not a sport where there's a lot of money. I mean, comparatively, I'm talking about relative, say tennis or anything. A player cannot be really making riches the way they do it. It's still to pick up, but it takes time. It's still evolving into a sport, and I told you the kind of changes they're trying to make it and all that. It'll take time, but it's going in the right direction. In Egypt today, the local our national coach or the consultant coach today is an Egyptian. He says it's number 2 behind football. In Egypt. It's a mela there. Once any squash tournament or any squash event is held there, it's almost a mela, that sort of kind of situation. Because of the result oriented. Once you produce results, supposing tomorrow you have a few world championship in India, I'm sure squash is going to get the same sort of treatment like, say, any other medal winning sport, not only medal winning, popular sports in India. So to that extent, I think results is what matters, and also visibility. That is what they're trying their best to do now with all this. And I'm sure once it gets into the Olympics, squash is going to be a very different game.
Sir, in terms of physical fitness and athleticism, you just made a reference to it. But generally in India especially, we have some misconceptions, like some sports are lazy man sport, like golf. But similarly in squash, what is the kind of physical skills that are required, or physical ability a player is required, how strong? Apart from squash skills, what are the trainings that they have to undergo?
That's a good question, because people think that squash is just about playing fun, but squash, 20 minutes of squash is equivalent to probably running 10 kilometers. That's how it is. That's strenuous, very strenuous, and particularly at the highest level, it has got to be much more. It's grueling. That's why you have to be supremely fit. so that all the it is not about training is not about playing and spending hours on the court. It's about building your muscles, building your leg muscles, shoulder muscles, your flexibility. That is why this academy, when it started, people have started understanding what is really training in squash. Major Maniam brought up the system. Every day he used to have different system for them. One day it will be running, one day it will be weight training, one day it will be swimming. So like that, different ways of doing about, so that toning up the muscles at the same time make it interesting for the youngsters. Very easy for a youngster to get bored, saying the same thing every day. Make it interesting, and at the same time the focus is on all this physical plus you get has to be on the court. How quickly you move on the court, how nicely you can go around without being injured at any time. Injury shouldn't be there. So that is, to looking at it, I think it's one of the most strenuous sports that I can think of when it comes to training, when it comes to the exercise.
For any sport today, apart from the training aspect, we have the other sets of people like who like a support staff who actually get the player to perform, like you tennis. In squash, we have a coach, a national coach coming from Bombay.
Yeah.
So in terms of other than players, so how is the system evolving here in India to have the additional support staff to groom the players?
That's what I'm saying. No, they regularly have what they call conference or orientation course and all that, wherein at the academy here, because this being the base here, the most Major Money when he was there, and when Cyrus Poncha now, they will get these coaches from all over India, give them an orientation course, refresher course, so that they are also tuned to what's happening in the world, and they are told this is how you have to go about and do it, and the fruits of their labor is seen in the how these kids perform in the competitions. So it's a question of making them also this thing. They are also encouraged. If you're a good coach, tomorrow you have a good chance of joining the Indian team. You can also be part of the training this thing. You will be called here for special training. So it's not a question of they every day in and day out they being there and doing their job, whatever job they are doing. They are in touch with the national coach regularly. They can tell them what exactly he's doing, going about, how is he going about, and what are the results of his are going to be seen in the way the players are come up. So that is how it had developed. That's the kind of, and then of course once the players come up, today the government of India and the SRFI are able to get the grants for them in some of the top tournaments in the world. And in junior there are quite a few: Dutch Open, Swede Open, and Scottish Open, and British Junior Open. And we have done well. That last year we won the gold, silver, and bronze in the under 19, unprecedented. So like that every year. This year we won silver in the top under 13 or something. So like that every year now we started getting performance. And doing something in the British Junior Open is just like doing something in Wimbledon. That's the way. That's the level or comparison they go about doing.
Yeah, that's the point, because in any other sport also, for example, women cricket or sports where players are doing well internationally, but they always talk about lack of exposure.
Yeah.
So in squash, how is it? Do you have a lot of?
I don't think this point has ever come about, because lack of exposure shouldn't be there. They are getting a lot of exposure. They keep regularly going and participating. Even today, till yesterday, there was a player playing in the Malaysian junior. Another player was playing in the Qatar junior. And some PS. And then of course seniors, of course, they go around, they have the professional squash, the PSA tournaments of the world over. It's all right at 11 months in the year. It's played. And you have to choose and that again the coaches tell them which are the tournaments you can choose. Because ultimately every player's aim is to improve their rankings. We have today 3 players in the top 20 in India. The highest is of course Saurav Ghoshal, he's 14. And Joshna is 17 and Deepika is 20. Only these 3 have really come up to that age. Now, there is a problem here in the sense, you can, as I say, you can make a player good, a youngster can come up nicely, he will become an Asian champion, like the case of our Velavan Senthil Kumar from Tamil Nadu, a very proud, young, brilliant fellow, brilliant player. But he had reached a stage of his life, 18, 19 years, when education becomes more important. Parents say, what next? You're not going to live on squash all through. You have to take the risk. Now Saurav Ghoshal and all that decided, studies was there. They did study. Saurav went to England, did his graduation from Leeds University, plus he had a coaching session there. And he decided, this is going to be my line. I'll be playing professional squash and see, let me see how it goes on. For 5 years, I'll give myself. Similarly, now Joshna has done it. Ultimately, she's reached a stage where last year she got a job in the Tamil Nadu Electricity Board. They given a sports officer's job. Deepika is still probably not looking for it, but she's still playing actively. The other players, by the time they reach 18, 19, they think of studies. And the United States is one country where squash is given a lot of importance. They give a special scholarship for that.
Okay.
So most of the kids who study here or play here, the fear is that, yes, they're good. Let's see how long they'll start. That's the idea. They will immediately fly off. You can't stop them.
Yeah,
I mean, the future is, the education is also there.
Yeah.
And they go there and they promise we will play. But once into the studies, it's difficult. Some of them end up playing the university there and then quietly fade off. Some of them try their best to join, play a few more PSA tournaments, but they rapidly, their rankings drop, then they realize it's not easy to, take up both burden of studies and the training of this. So that is one issue which, in fact, worries the SRFI a lot, because they're not able to keep the players here, because there's no way you can tell them, no, you can't go, they have to study. They tried their best, and Mr. Ramachandran, in fact, thought about one idea here. He said, let's throw our this thing on the fishermen folk and all the people here, local. One or two players did come up. They ended up becoming coaches now in the academy. So they have given a new life for them.
Okay.
So, but that is, they're still there, but not spread out the way it should have. I mean, maybe because not many are coming forth. So that's how it is. At certain negatives will have to be there. I mean, some of them do not come up to the level they want.
Suppose in 2024 squash is an Olympic game.
Yeah.
Will India win a gold medal?
Well, that's a very very difficult to say, because Asian Games we have done well. At the top level, you see, we haven't had a player who was in the top 10 for a long time. Usually, rankings reflect the level of one's this thing. So, the top 6, top 5 are normally the people to whom you look at. Yes, these are the people who win. India is nowhere there. But let's not look for gold. Let's look for a medal. Maybe there's more realistic dream in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving slightly away from squash, in fact, you sort of said how in squash too, a lot of this talent is sort of drained because they go to the education system. This is a kind of a bane in other sports also.
Yeah.
Like especially I've seen it in swimming where we've done stories. Like I don't know if you may remember this swimmer called Meghna Narayan from Bangalore. In fact, her timing when she was a junior was above international standards. But then she got into sports quota, went into medicine, and today we don't even know who's Meghna. We don't remember.
Correct.
So like that, most of the sports we have this. How do we stem this, and can we sort of get into a sports culture? Essentially, what we are thinking is here we have China with its population winning Olympic medals. Maybe last Olympics they didn't do well, but they give a tough competition. Hey, India is still looking for an Olympic gold medal. So how do we bridge this gap?
I'll tell you, if you look at from the point of view of a parent, a child is doing well, you tell them that he's a prodigy, let him play. But the parent will ask, okay, he goes on playing. At such a certain age when his game stops, would he not say, look, I didn't study, where do I reach? He's not a Sachin Tendulkar. Sachin Tendulkar did not see the portals of a college. But that didn't affect him. Because but that is cricket. See, today, yesterday's hero in that Under-19 World Cup, Manjot Kalra, that boy is postponed his higher studies. After school, he has not even joined college yet. He said, let me finish my cricket. There is more thing in that. Now, I can tell you one thing. In cricket today, because of all this IPL and because of the kind of money that is flowing in, it's not spoiling them. It sort of assures them that there is a future. I don't have to worry, because my parents will not be worried. If I'm going to be just this, I'm still going to make lakhs and crores because of the kind of money that flows in, if my skills is there. And sportsman's life is always a short one. They can't go on playing. Even if it's 10 years, you can still make the kind of money in 10 years what probably you would have made with your MBA, everything in 40 years or 30 years. If you look at it that way. But then you have to be really good. But in other sports, even if you're really good, as if there is a limit. For instance, okay, what can you best do? PT Usha, for all her success, she started her academy there. Her dream is to get somebody there. It's still a dream. I don't know when it will come or whether it will come, because the person whom she's teaching is just like taking a pony to the water. You can't make it drink. That sort of thing. You can train it, you can bring it up nicely, but then you never know. It's again a question of, you can't really make the child or the boy or girl do what exactly you want. That may last. So in other sports, the problem with the limitation is that there is no backup, no guarantee. There is no guarantee. If in China now, then probably the government will say, you do this only. The government will look after you totally. You don't have to worry at all about your future. Does it happen here? You're good. You're a good sportsman. They'll look at you. There are Olympians, I'm told. I've read in the newspaper. Some of them past Olympians, somebody medal winners in some sport, in some world championship, selling peanuts on the road for a living. This should never happen.
Yeah.
But that's a wrong signal for sports. That is, unless there is a guarantee that by doing sports and sports alone, and then giving little less, stress on education. Not that education should be spoiled. Whether there is a future, whether somebody can guarantee them, don't worry, we'll look after them well. Until that system comes in, it's difficult for many sports person to, they become serious in the sport.
No, basically this is because like when we were students, our parents would never allow us to get into sports.
what I'm
It was considered as, those who are useless go to sports.
Correct.
Kind of.
You're spoiling it, wasting time.
Yeah, wasting
Yeah,
time. So
yeah.
how do we change that culture? How do we create a kind of a mindset among people saying, like, there are examples, like you said, cricket, but even in tennis, we have Leander Paes, Mahesh Bhupathi.
Yeah.
Now in badminton, we have Sindhu, Saina, all of them doing so well, and they're really showing that sports is an option. So how can we create that kind of a mass base and awareness?
I think you'll have probably the private sector, the corporate world will have to come in a big way and decide on just like the Olympic question, all that they do it. As I said, everywhere the whole thing is you have to guarantee life. A sports person, he may be good or he may not be good, whatever it is. If he is good, you're giving encouragement, you're making the child, a boy or girl, come up nicely with all the structured training, exposure, everything is there. But at some point of time in the future, say when maybe 23, 24 for an athlete or some other thing, what next? A Federer doesn't have to worry because the tennis is such a rich sport, and he has reached a level wherein he's definitely he's a legend. That he's placed, and his own persona is good enough for any ad and all sorts of it. But to reach that level, everybody can't reach that. And to make it attractive, you have to assure the person, don't worry. Even if you don't reach this level, you're still, there is no failing. In cricket today, that is only sport in India. Despite all that people talk about it, there's only sport in India. For instance, in the last World Cup, under 19, only one or two persons came into the national team, but others didn't get really wasted. They still play. Some of them started academies. They are all working. They are all well placed that way. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to say that they are all well placed. They have not wasted the time. Their talent has gone into some other lines.
Yes.
So maybe in most of the sports, I think some of them are. I noticed that some of them plow back. That is, they get back to the administration, or they go into coaching or start academy. That probably is the one way of going about. If there is no other avenue other than the active sport, then that is where the problem comes. How that go about is the corporate. They'll have to work out a system where a sportsman doesn't waste. Or a sports person comes he joins, it's a sacrifice. It gets, and then that should not go waste. That sort of assurance, if it can come from anywhere, that's the best. And I think it's a question of working out a scheme wherein maybe the government plus private sector can run to jointly do together. Okay. That will be great.
Now, what do you think is the role of media? Because cricket is sort of like become a media hype today. But similarly, other sports, even other sports persons do very well. If there's cricket, then cricket gets all the attention. But the other sports, just somehow, sometimes we as sports journalists, we also feel sad that other sports persons are not getting that kind of merit and recognition.
No, but you see, I'll tell you what, it's not as though a cricket is big, is taking away everything else. You also perform. Then where is the question of any comparison? Cricket will have the same situation, say in America or Latin America. You talk about the football there. Everybody will be playing football. They are performers. Tomorrow you play. If some of them, I told you, as I said, what happened to chess now? Tell me. Yeah. Moment Vishwanath Anand won the chess world championship here, chess revolutionized. Today there are nearly 50, I think, general grandmasters probably here. Terrific progress. Nobody is wasting time. And chess has been linked to having a good mind, intelligent mind and all that. What more do you want? Every parent will say, you take to chess, play chess. And chess is also becoming a pretty interesting thing. You can become you can become chess teachers. You can become academy, you can start an academy. So many things are there for if you want to really concentrate only on chess. But mostly chess players don't have to because they'll be good in studies also. So they don't worry on that lines. So it's a question of performance. One person to whom you can look upon, I can be like him. That example has to come in, and then immediately that sport will develop. Unfortunately in India, or fortunately in India, you could say, cricket is showing that. Every era there is somebody who is up there for the younger generation to think of emulating. Yes, once it is Sachin, now it is Virat Kohli, maybe tomorrow it will be Manjot Kalra, somebody else. Many people are coming up. If other sports can also do that, and you have some good football player or a hockey player. Once upon a time, hockey used to be what it is now. See, that's what I'm saying. If you have a model right there who can prove it, look, I want to be like him. That probably helps you to develop the sport, that particular game. Plus, you can get talents also into that.
Thank you very much, sir. So we had Mr. Surya Narayan, a veteran sports journalist, talking about squash and sports in general. So thank you very much for spending time with us and giving your valuable time, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I enjoyed everything.